clicker.
Can you hear us? Yes. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Does everyone have a pen and paper?
Yes.
Good. Okay, good preparation, guys. Thanks. So we are Kamilla, Bilan, and Raquel from Easypark, and we're so happy to see all of you in here. This is incredible. Wow. What an energy in this room. We have approximately 35 to 40 minutes to talk about how we can use visualization to improve the collaboration between product teams. And this is going to be a playful session, so we're really, embracing the theme of this year, of playfulness. So who here has heard about Easypark before today? Okay, the majority. So I'm not sure, does everyone here have a car or a driving license, or just heard about it? Yeah, I know that a lot of people in Stockholm don't actually drive, which is a good thing. Okay, so I guess you know us since we have this parking app, but we actually do other things as well. Our vision is to make cities more livable, and we do this by providing parking data and insights to the cities so that they can improve the space of the cities to reduce the traffic congestion, to optimize the urban mobility, etc. And if you want to know more about that, we have lots of guys in our booth that can explain more about it. But right now, you're going to hear from us, a product trio. We've got design, product, and engineering. So we're just going to start by, introducing ourselves a bit so that you can get to know us a bit more.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Bilan. I am an iOS engineer, so I'm a software engineer focusing primarily on iOS apps, and I have been for the last 10 years. I started off doing computer science at university, and I pretty much went straight into working as a software engineer. And in both London, where I'm from, and Stockholm, where I have lived for the last few years, I have worked in both small companies and startups, working with a range of different people, as well as in large corporations. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Raquel. I'm the designer here. How many designers do we have today? Oh, well, good. So, you never know. I'm a design lead with a background in user experience, design systems, and product strategy. And I've been working through a bunch of different industries, places like Spotify, like Volvo, like I settle all the Stockholm classics, and now Easypark. I'm really passionate about driving innovation through collaboration, and when building teams, allow them to experiment, to learn, and to grow. As we will see today, visual thinking it is an incredibly powerful tool to align when you are working on a team. So this is what we will be talking today. Yeah.
Yes, and Kamilla and Navrotsky here, product manager at Easypark. My career journey was not as linear as Bilan's and Raquel's. I started out with music, social science, jumped over to vehicle engineering. I was a fluid dynamics nerd for a while, fell in love with turbo machinery, worked with gas turbines for 5 years, and then I started working with AI at SEB and got into IT, worked as a developer, IT architect, and got into product. And now I work with product management. So it's been like a 3-dimensional roller coaster. I've been all over the place. A curious person. So I know by experience when I say that, coming into a new job can sometimes feel like this. Like you have a pop-up in your head being like, error 404, what are they talking about? Has anyone ever felt this way in any situation? Ever? Raise your hands. Every time you wake up, yeah. Welcome to the real world, right? Being a grown-up is difficult. So it can either be if someone is explaining something to you and you don't get what they're talking about, or when you're trying to communicate something to someone else. I know that it can be frustrating. When I started working at Easypark in September last year, I came into a company that has been growing rapidly. It's like one of Europe's fastest growing businesses. So you can just imagine the growth pain that we have. There's like not enough documentation. My team had inherited a lot of different new stuff to work on. They were not always sure about the scope and were asking me, and I was new. So it was a bit overwhelming. And I mean, sure, it can be stressful. So what I tried to do, instead of just like panicking every time I was tagged in a Slack thread where I didn't know the answer, was to try to collaborate with my coworkers to draw what they were talking about. Because, okay, I'm a visual person. I know that Bilan is as well, and Raquel too. That's why we're here. But not everyone is. A lot of people like understand if you're explaining something, they can comprehend what you're saying, but I kind of need to see it, at least in my own head. And I know that there are a lot of people like me out there. So for me, it was not like enough to just have someone talk about something and assume that I would get it like this. I need to like see it, at least in like written format somehow. So we started drawing, and I like if I didn't know, I tried to draw it myself, or I asked someone else to draw it. So it helped me to learn and it helped them to explain. And together, piece by piece, slowly, we kind of created common pictures. And it was not always like these, it didn't have to be a part of the documentation. It could be just like for a discussion, just to understand something very simple. Like when words fail us, sometimes drawing could save us. And here's a very simple example of when I made a very simple drawing that helped me a lot. So I work with what we call country directors. So every country has a country director, and we're a global company, so we have a lot of them. And they have their own terminology when they're talking about stuff. So I work with tech, but I also have lots of other stakeholders, and everyone's talking about their stuff, and everyone's like assuming that you know what they're talking about. So when I started in September, it was very simple. We were still only Easypark. Now we have also merged together with Flowbird, so we're like double the size. But back then we only had on-street parking and off-street parking. So these were our parking area definitions. You don't have to remember this. This is just part of the example. And then when we were growing, a lot more kind of popped up in the discussions, like new words popped up, and I didn't always understand what they were talking about. So I asked one of the country directors to provide me some kind of like written definition that I could lean on. And he did so. He forwarded me a definition on Slack. Yeah, perfect. We're not going to go through this. This is not important. But as you can imagine, going from an oral communication to a written one clearly helped me to understand parts of it. But even though I had this, I couldn't visualize all of it in my head to see like what is opposing something else, or what is the same as, like, is on street the same as off street, or like what are we talking about? So I tried to draw this myself, and I ended up with a very simple Venn diagram that you can see here. And I imagine that even for you guys who are seeing this for the first time, like the picture itself is just a bit easier to digest compared to like the full text, even though they're kind of saying the same things. So I used this picture in a meeting together with the country director a couple of days later, and it turned out that like he saw in 1 second that, hey, this is wrong, and this is what the definition said. So it turned out that the restricted parking area is only for off-street, not for on-street, as it said in the written definition. So I updated it, and then we could like avoid future misunderstandings. And this is something extremely simple, like something I just did by myself in a couple of minutes, trying to understand something which helped others to also avoid misunderstandings going on. And yeah, I want to just highlight that the definitions are not what's important, and it doesn't have to be a pretty drawing. It's not going to hang in a museum for future generations to see. It's just for communication and to align with other people. So let's pause for a moment and ask, why drawing? What is it with visuals that are so powerful?
Okay, so the reason because visual thinking it is so powerful, it is because literally our brains processes images faster than words, and they are able to, images can, through the jargon, fill up the gaps, and help us create that shared mental model. That is especially helpful when we come from different disciplines, for different backgrounds, and we try to understand each other. In tech teams and in product teams, we often think that we are talking the same thing. We might be talking about the same problem or about the same objective, but when we try to represent what we have inside of our minds, then is when we start to see that even if it's the simplest thing, we have very different representations of what we are trying to mean. And we realize how interpretations can vary a lot. Visual thinking helps us a lot to slow down and to understand each other, which at the end, when you are working on a team setup, it helps you move faster. And we're gonna go hands-on with the designer because you're gonna be drawing now. So to prove how powerful visual thinking can be, we are going to we are going to use our notepads and pen, and we are tapping into the power of visual thinking. You don't need to be good at drawing. Don't worry, don't get stressed if you don't feel like you can draw. It is not about being an artist, it is about to grab a pen and put some ink into the paper. What matters is how the visual thinking is gonna think you through the problems and communicate the meaning that you have inside your mind. And we are going to do a very fun exercise individually, where you're gonna try to draw the journey of a dirty sock. So everybody has dirty socks, right? Everybody knows what it feels like. So all the journey that goes from when the socks are laying on the floor dirty to the sorted out stage, wherever you store them. This is what you are going to try to represent in a visual way. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just represent it in the way that feels natural to you. It could be a comic, it could be a timeline, it could be an abstraction. Whatever you have inside your head that represents the different states, the different activities, the different transitions that the sock goes with. And yeah, that's all about it. You have 4 minutes, which we are going to clock. It goes quite fast. So yeah, you can start now.
We'll tell you when you have 2 minutes left, so.
Yeah.
Some music on.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's the DJ?
Do you need any help with anything? I totally can.
It's fun. We tried this exercise ourselves, and
I forgot the washing machine
forgot
when I
it.
did it. So yeah.
it's funny. I forgot to sort my socks.
2 minutes left. 1 minute left. Don't stress. I'm gonna go now. So you're having fun. I can hear some laughs there. All right. So we're almost there. Don't worry if it's not finished. Don't worry if it's not perfect. You have some certain idea what the dirty sock unit is. And the first thing that you're gonna do is look at what you come up to. Like what did you draw? What did you put in the paper? Like, okay, the steps, the things. And then sneak peek to your neighbor or to the person that you have next to you. And see what. Stop. I'm gonna stop. You did it very well. So, have you noticed that what you draw probably have a bunch of similar and different things to your termed? Okay, so this is the whole point. When we try to represent something, everybody's gonna represent it in a slightly different way. Even if you forget the washing machine or not, there is gonna be always differences. When we look at the same task, always our brains make that interpretation in slightly different ways. And that happens all the time when we work in teams. Like this is just how things are. So this happens because we all have different mental models, and you were given the same task, and yet the interpretations that you did out of this task were different. So for example, these two images, they represent the same mountain. One is from the top and another one is from the side. And the elevation marks represent also the same elevation. But the information that you can convey from these two different images is different. The information and the meaning that these images throw to you, it is different. And this happens all the time when we work in teams that comes from different perspectives and backgrounds. When you are talking with a tech person or with a product person or with a data person, you have a different mental model inside your head. Even though if you're working on the same goal or in the same product, and this is exactly the point that we want to make today here, that visual thinking is gonna help us to reveal those invisibles and to fill up the gaps that you don't fill them up when you just talk with each other. Because when you use visual thinking, you start to work with clarity and co-create clarity. And yeah, Bilan.
Thank you. How visual thinking helps tech teams to understand each other. Do we have any software engineers here? Yay! I was a bit jealous. Yes. So whenever I join a new team as a software engineer, the first thing I often think is, what is going on? What am I supposed to do? And quite often I find that a lot of companies and teams have very little documentation, forget any sort of visualization or representation of what's going on. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate. So quite often what I do is I get out my iPad and my pencil or pen and paper, whatever it is that you choose, and I just start reading through what I can find, the hundreds of lines of code, and trying to understand what it is that's going on. So coming from a computer science background, I was introduced to UML, which stands for Unified Modeling Language. Now, don't get too hung up on the diagrams. It's essentially an opportunity to model behavior and structures of code. So, of course, it can be really tedious to go through a bunch of code to try and understand what's going on. So what I often tend to do is I take a step back and I think about what it is that the user is trying to achieve. So me joining Easypark, I joined over a year ago. The first thing I thought to myself is, what is it that the user is trying to achieve? So I have a little stick person here and I start to map out all of the different use cases. So I would imagine that my stick person, my parking user, would probably want to start parking at some point. I'd also imagine at some point they'd want to view the parkings that they've started, and I would imagine that they would want to stop parking at some point. So once I've spent some time going through the code base and I've looked at the use cases that I've derived, I can start to map out a flow of what is going on in the actual code. So again, don't worry too much about the actual diagram, but I've created a set of rules, which means that the purple is the user interactions and the pink represents what happens in response. And these little little diamonds represent the points of decision for a user, and the different directions represent the different flows that a user can go in. So this is what I often do. And I can take this understanding and the illustrations that I've created, and I can go back to both product and design, as well as other engineers on my team to make sure that I've correctly understood what is going on in the application. And those stakeholders can help me to validate my current understandings. From there, I'm able to derive the actual structure of the application, and I can start modeling out all of the different entities that should be present in the application. So as you can see, I've got all of the different entities from user to a parking and what a vehicle looks like. I can start to decide what type of properties they have, and I can also look at the actual functionality that should be present inside of that. So this can be exactly the same in an iOS application, on an Android application. It can be modeled exactly the same on the back end, and it can even be modeled exactly the same by UI systems. Think of it as a user with a list of parkings, and they have a vehicle, and they have an opportunity to pay. And if they want to pay and they want to use the make payment, they can represent that as a button, as a call to action. So drawing becomes much more than just a communication tool. It becomes a shared understanding. We're able to have a communication language that we all understand, and it goes both ways. Product can validate with me, and I can also validate with product as well as design.
Yeah, this is the dream for a product manager to have this.
And it also allows us to uncover any gaps, if there's anything that I was missing, if there's anything that they were missing. And it also helps to figure out if there was anything that was not possible. There's often times where it's really easy for product people to have all of these grand ideas, and having some sort of visualization can stop them in their tracks and say, hey, that's actually not possible. So this brings us to what is next. I'll hand over to Raquel, who will guide us through the group version of the exact same exercise.
We're coming back to the dirty sock journey, but this time we are going to draw together. So remember what you draw, and what do we want to draw together? Just remember what Bilan told. At Easypark, we have a set of core values, collaboration, empathy, curiosity, and we work as a team. We try to bring those values to the teamwork. We are just not solving problems when we work as a team. We are applying these values to figure out solutions together. And the way that we understand how each other see the things, it is what makes teamwork powerful, because when you include all the perspectives of all the different backgrounds, of all the different skill sets, is when you come up with solutions and with innovation and with the next big thing. And visual thinking help us go and apply, co-create and apply those values. So we are going to get back to the SOX journey. Now, I'm going to ask you to look at your individual drawing that you already have done. And now, as a group, I will say with your chairmate, pair up and try to come up with a combined journey of your two perspectives. You saw while you were comparing that everyone draws something slightly different. And that's exactly the point. You're gonna now pair with someone that you might not know at all, and you're gonna try to come up with a solution that combines both of the perspectives. And this is exactly what we do when we work in teams. Try to understand each other's perspective and come up with a solution. We are going to do 8 minutes of the same exercise, but now by pairs. And I'm gonna leave this slide here during the 8 minutes. 8.
Yeah, you were supposed to have 10. But
We're supposed to, yeah. And think about, what could be the result of the combining perspectives? What are the different steps or the similar steps, the methods of visualizations, and try to come up with a combined version of it all. Okay? And we will have the timer running here, and we will tell you again. I will whistle again.
And if you don't have a pair, try and find someone to group up with.
Can you put a minute? Can you put a minute? Okay, wrapping up your. I'm gonna whistle again. All right. So, was it fun? Did you have fun? Yes. Okay, happy about that. So, what do you have? Was it difficult? No? Yeah. But that's a learning. So, it's a good thing to learn about. So, what you just have done, it's about using drawing or visual thinking or visual representation to use as a shared language to talk with another person and share different perspectives and mental models. And this is exactly what we do when we work in trios and when we work in that team setting with different functions, product, tech, design, data, marketing, you name it. Use drawings, use visual thinking. It's a way to convey meaning and to get closer to understand what other people think. And this is a reflection that we would like you to take with you today.
What did you learn?
Yeah, anybody wants to share what did they, yeah?
I should separate the white socks from the black socks.
That's a learning, another learning. Yeah?
Trying to explain how I understand the system. I find that so difficult sometimes, and now I'm like, yeah, I should just draw. Like it's
Exactly.
like
Yes.
do I understand it?
Yeah.
Is this the way? Because sometimes try and then you kind of just like, okay, maybe I got it. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's why it's so important, because then everyone else in your team will know what you understand and what the knowledge gap is, so that they can explain it better for you.
We had someone there first. Yeah. And imagine if you are building a supply chain and you start to miss steps in between. This is a sock, but in a project, that could be a fail or not. So this is exactly the point that we want to do here today. I think you were also there, yeah, and then we need to move. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's amazing. It's so good to hear that. Yes, this is the point that we wanted to bring here today. So yeah, uh, wrapping up the last thoughts. So yeah.
Yes. So, time for wrap up. We are coming closer to the end of the session. So we just want to say that dare to draw in your everyday life as soon as you have a question, whether it's you that don't understand or if you realize that someone else might not understand. So if you have a junior person in your team, use this to explain to them. It makes it so much easier. And remember, it doesn't have to be pretty. We're not artists. I mean, we have some designers, but the rest of us might not be so good at it. And it doesn't have to be like a certain method. It can be like just some doodling on a paper or some boxes. Sometimes I use like a PowerPoint and I just like add some boxes and some text to be like, is it this? And then someone else can be like, oh no, actually it's like this instead. But then at least they know how I have interpreted their words. And remember, we all have different mental models. So I see what I see, and what I see in my head is completely different than what you see in your head. Just like all of your pictures here. By the way, we want to take a selfie with you and your drawings. That would be so awesome. So just have that in mind when you're talking to someone, when you're communicating, that all of the context and all of the images that you have access to, that's only like, that's private access. It's not public to anyone else. So drawing is just a way to share that knowledge and to, create clarity. And it's one of the most powerful tools that we have in our toolbox. And for some reason, when we're grown-ups, we don't use it, which is insane, because as kids, we draw all the time. So we have some takeaways. Yay, I managed to click this. I was a bit, before I was clicking here, but it was wrong. So we've got some takeaways. So if you're ready to start drawing when you get back to the office, yeah, I see someone is taking a picture, good. The first one is, one, we have different mental models. You know this by now, right? It's like a fingerprint, it's unique to you. What does it mean? It means don't make assumptions, just like you said, and ask questions. And when other people ask questions, use them in your drawings. Number two, draw together. Because collaboration isn't just working next to each other, it's creating something together. And this creates like a sense of trust within the team. You will also get like a shared ownership of whatever it is that you are creating.
And it's fun.
And it's fun.
It's just fun.
And it makes it easier. And like the development of the products will be just faster. And one tips when it comes to drawing together is that I remember when I was working as a developer, there was one thing that we used to do, and it's that the junior developer was like writing the code. So the one that knows the least about what it is that you're talking about should hold the pen the most. And then you kind of work on top of that together. And third, the last but not the least, is the courage to try it out. Dare to draw in your everyday life. It doesn't have to be scary. It's just a little doodle, and then you can move on. Nothing big. And it can be boxes, arrows, or just like a little stick figure. And we hope that we have inspired you to try this out and to spread the word so that people like me can understand easier in the future. We hope that you have gotten something to take to your team and to yourself and to, create more clarity in your everyday life. So thank you.
Thank
we
you.
have one thing. If you want to connect with us with Easypark, we've got everyone in a pink shirt outside can scan your badges if you're interested in joining us in the future or just want to connect. So thank you for joining and thank you for drawing.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
Proud of you.
And if you want, I would love to take some photos of your beautiful sock journeys. So, yeah. Save them.